So this video is pretty unique since this is the first video I've made on this channel where I'm showing my face. And you've probably already guessed what the video is about by the title of the video. And the chances are you're either one of the 5 people that are subscribed to me, or you're someone from my school who came to watch this video because I posted about it on my story. So this video isn't going to be scripted or anything. This is just me ranting and rambling and getting a lot of stuff off my chest that I've been holding in for the past year or so. So for starters, my high school experience has not treated me very well. And I'd like to preface just by saying, just to get this out of the way, I do blame myself for most of how my experience in high school has gone. I'm not trying to point fingers or make anyone feel sorry for me. I blame myself for most of what went wrong in my experience. So just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm just telling everything that happened. So I should start by speaking on my experiences in middle school. In middle school, I was that kid that was very shy and a little sheltered and not cued into all social norms at the time, because I didn't get a phone until I was in 8th grade and didn't have social media, so I wasn't exactly on all the current trends and whatnot. So I was that kid, the quiet kid that the popular girls would pretend to, be interested in, or the popular girls would treat like a pet, but they would secretly be making fun of them. And I didn't realize that at the time. I thought I was Joe Popular and Joe Cool, and so that probably cues you into how the rest of my school experience was. And it's not to say it wasn't deserved. I was pretty weird in middle school. I'm not gonna get into that right now because that's a whole different ball game. But I was a weirdo in middle school. But as I got into high school, I started to shift away from that more. I started to mature and realize, hey, I can just kind of act like a normal person. So I feel like I mellowed out a little bit halfway through my freshman year before COVID hit and all that. So yeah. I'm going to be segmenting this video into different aspects of my high school career, and each different aspect that made it so horrible. And most of it had to do with social stuff and my interactions with other people. And a lot of it did have to do with me and how I reacted to these situations. But I don't know, that high school, it just was not a good place. So I'm gonna be breaking down each different aspect of what made my experience so terrible. And this isn't scripted or anything. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just coming up with the stuff on the spot, pulling it from memory and whatnot. So yeah.
I think I've got a lot of friends, but I don't hear from them. What's another night all alone when you're spending every day on your own?
I guess the first thing I should get into is my social relations with everyone. So a lot of people like to pull the, oh, I don't have any friends card. But I'm not even lying when I say I genuinely did not have any friends all throughout high school. The way my friend group sort of worked was, back in elementary school, this small group of us all went to the same private Catholic school or whatever, and we were all friends back then because you're little kids and stuff like that, you're friends with everybody. So we were all friends, and then we transitioned to middle school, and some of the kids from our elementary school knew kids from the other elementary school, and we were all now in middle school. So the friends who knew each other from the different schools, they were all friends. They all had this huge group, and I didn't know any of the kids from the other elementary school, so I was kind of just thrown into this group of people I didn't really know. Like I knew some of them from like soccer and stuff like that, but I didn't like know them or whatever. So it was a little weird. But I tried my best to like fit in and maintain with the group. But like I don't know. I was always that guy who I'd sit like at the lunch table with the group and like I mean I'd be sort of involved in conversations in class or whatever, but like they never really like invited me anywhere or like asked me if I wanted to go do something. Like, well, that's not true. One of them was if they asked me if I wanted to go play pickup soccer. There was this one kid who would always ask a bunch of kids on their soccer team if they wanted to go play pickup soccer. And the reason they would ask me is not because they actually wanted to hang out with me, they just needed another person, like another body for their team. So like it's not because they wanted to actually like, hang out with me, which, that feels great. And then the other instance was for like school sporting events and stuff like that. And even then I never really got invited or to anything. And like I'd go to the school sporting event and like no one would talk to me. They would all be talking with each other and I'd just be standing there like, okay, cool. Like I just like be hanging around. And like anytime I try to talk to someone, they just like look at me for a couple of seconds and be like, oh yeah, okay. And then like go back to talking with their friends and the other popular kids. So, it felt pretty great. I remember actually this past year, my senior year, the senior year that I'm on, there was a football game where we would always sit in the student section. So I got there and I remember I left to go to the bathroom or something, and I came back up. And the way the seating for the student section always works is it's freshmen all the way at the back, then sophomores, then juniors, then seniors at the front. Like that's how it always goes. And I remember like I came back and all these juniors had taken my spot, and I was like, they would move for everyone else. Like if they were like the ringleaders of the student section or whatever, they'd move for them. Like they'd be like, yo, make room for so and so, or like, yo, so and so's here, like scooch down. But like anytime I'd show up, they just like they wouldn't care. Like they did not give a shit like at all. Like, and I'd just be standing there waiting for someone to move, but like nobody moved, and it felt pretty phenomenal. I remember that game, like none of the juniors would move because like they didn't give a shit about me, and rightfully so. Like I was a nobody, but like so I just got really fed up and I just left. I went home, and then of course I got clowned on it the next day. Like, oh, why'd you feel so threatened by the juniors or whatever? Like, no, like it's obvious people didn't want me there, so like why would I stay there? So yeah, that was pretty much how every social event that I went to would go. Like nobody really cared if I was there or not, and most of the time they probably didn't want me there. And it got even worse, like for instances like school dances or something. I remember freshman year there was this instance where I went with this one girl. She had asked me, or I had asked her, I forget, but I went with this one girl, and like she wasn't ugly, but like she was decent looking, like she was pretty, but like she wasn't in the popular group. She wasn't in the clique that all my friends were in. So they all made fun of me for it and they clowned on me for it. And I didn't really understand why. And back then it was early freshman year, so I was still trying to fit in or whatever. So like I was so desperate I'd do anything to like not be seen as uncool or unpopular. So I was like, well, what do you guys want me to do? Like, do you want me to like not go with her or whatever? But then they were like, well, no, you can't not go with her or whatever. But then they treat me like a piece of shit for saying I didn't want to go with her. But then they'd also make fun of me for going with her. So I was like, what do you want me to do? So that was very weird and very strange, and it made me feel phenomenal. And I felt bad for the girl too, because like she heard stuff about people saying that like I didn't want to go with her because I was getting made fun of, which like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'd feel horrible if I were in her place. And it didn't really make sense. I didn't get why I was making fun of, but like, she wasn't popular. She wasn't in the group. So I guess, yeah, she is, like a plague or something. I don't know. And then I didn't go to homecoming sophomore year because of COVID and stuff like that. There wasn't a homecoming. And then junior year, this is where it gets rough. So junior year, I asked this one girl who, I don't know why I did this. Like, this was not a big brain move on my part already. I had asked this one girl who had already rejected me. And, like, I got rejected a ton of times throughout my school career. I'll get into that later. But, like, I was going with this one girl who rejected me. I said, you want to go as friends or whatever? Because, like, I felt like I needed to have someone to go with. Like, or else, I'd look like a fool or whatever if I went to prom. Because, like, oh, you need someone to go with or whatever. Because if I go with friends, I'm using friends lightly here, I just end up standing there, like, no one talks to me and no one, like, interacts with me, and it's very awkward, and it's just a bunch of people in the cafeteria with lights flashing going like this the whole time. I just gotta stand there and go like this, and it's not very fun. So I was trying to find someone to go with, so I asked her, because I didn't know who else to think of, and she said yes. So I was like, oh, okay, nice. And all my friends, like, I told them, they asked who I'm going with, I said so-and-so. And they were like, oh, yo, great job, man, that was such a pull or whatever. And they congratulated me, like the complete opposite of what they did my freshman year when I asked the other girl, who was probably a nicer person than the girl I was asking my junior year. But she was popular, so, I mean, they all congratulated me and patted me on the back, but, like, it felt very, very odd because the other girl she wasn't unattractive. She was no more unattractive than the girl that I was going with junior year was. So it was very strange. But the girl told me she was going to wear champagne gold as her dress. So, you know me, I told my parents and picked out a fire fit. We were going to be stepping out in style for sure. And about a week and a half before homecoming, she came up to my locker. And I'd like to say this, I wasn't exactly the best date either. I'm very shy, so I barely talked to her in person at all. So kind of a big blunder on my part. Like, and our lockers were right next to each other, like quite literally right next to each other, since our last names started with R. So I tried to avoid eye contact with her. I wouldn't talk to her because, like, I was so worried about embarrassing her or whatever, because, she was one of the popular people, and, like, I was in the popular group sort of, but, like, I wasn't, like, I wasn't up there. So, like, I didn't want to taint her reputation or whatever. So she comes up to me the one day at my locker and says, hey, I just wanted to let you know I changed my dress, but gold will still work with it. And I'm like, okay, send me a picture later. She sends the picture, and the dress color is hot pink. So that was amazing. And my parents were not happy. My mom hit the ceiling. And at the time, I didn't know why she did it. Like, I thought, oh, maybe she just needed a dress change or whatever. But now I know why. It's because she didn't want to be associated with me, because I was, an embarrassment. Which makes sense. Like, I mean, look at me. Like, I'm hideous to look at. But anyway, at that point, I knew we wouldn't look good together. We would look like a traveling circus, like, with two completely clashing colors. And I was dreading the day of homecoming. But the homecoming football game, I went, and I told myself, I'm gonna man up. I'm gonna sit next to her at the football game. What a hero I was. I was really putting it all on the line for that one. So I got there, and she was a row behind us. So I'm plotting in my head. I'm, like, seeing all the schematics. I'm plotting out the data, the trajectory for how I can somehow move back up there to be next to her without causing a ruckus or causing a scene. So I see one of my boys behind me. He's a chill dude. What I didn't know was he was sitting next to his homecoming date, who was sitting next to my homecoming date. So I asked the dude, yo, can you trade with me, please? And then I can sit next to so-and-so, my homecoming date. And he just looked at me funny for like 10 seconds. He was like, nah, bro, like, I'm kind of sitting with so-and-so, like. And then it hit me in that moment, like, oh, shit, he's kind of going to homecoming with her. So I just that was pretty awkward. And then the other girl started, like, getting confused, like, why does he want to move? Why does he want to come up here? Like, what is the big deal? And at that point, I just wanted to throw myself down the staircase because I had already made an entire scene. So I just tried to put that behind me. And I actually wasn't done making a fool of myself because, after the football game, we ended up winning. Everyone's going crazy. They're like peeing their pants and like going absolutely hog wild. Like, so we all gotta go hit up Sheets at the end, like hit the tavern for some, for some fine refreshments after a very hard fought victory. So I decide I'm gonna go up to my date and actually have a conversation with her. And I go up to her. She's talking to someone else. She's talking to another kid in my friend group at the same time. I go up to her and I stammer out the words, hey, I just wanted to let you know I got your corsage thingy. And then that was all I said. And she said, okay, cool, and gave me the thumbs up. And then the other kid who was in my friend group let out a, let's go, as if to make fun of me. And she let out a, let's go. And I just wanted to, let's go home and rethink my life decisions. So it was a pretty depressing car ride home. Yeah, to say the least. And the next day was homecoming. I had a soccer game that day, not that it mattered. We lost, so it was raining too, so it was a pretty crappy day all around. So we go down to the fountain area in town to take pictures, and that's where everybody goes. So everyone's down there, all the popular kids with their, attractive boyfriends, with their attractive girlfriends, and here I am with this super popular girl who I'm supposed to be going with, and her dress doesn't even match mine. And I think it was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. And I think it got even worse because one of her friends who had her own date, who they were actually dating, she wanted a picture with her, but she wanted it to be like us with our dates or whatever. So it was me, my date, her friend, and her date, and we all took the picture. And I remember a friend handing the phone back to her and saying the words, "You're not gonna post that," because I was in the picture and I was seen as such a punishment. And yeah, so that felt phenomenal. So I was not having a good time there. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, and we ended up going to the dance, and we did the slow dance, and we like avoided eye contact the entire time, which is given at that point, since like it was clear she didn't want to be there with me, because like I was such a, I don't know, I was such a punishment. It was like she lost a round of truth or dare or something, or like she lost a round of like Jackass or whatever, where you gotta do some horrific punishment, and I was the horrific punishment. And she ended up leaving early to go to some after party, which I wasn't invited to because I didn't get invited to anything. So yeah, that was my junior year homecoming experience. I did not attend homecoming or prom my senior year, and I didn't attend prom my junior year because I think I had enough of dances at that point. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of how that all shook out. So that was pretty awful. It kind of scarred me, but no, not really. I'm just joking. But like, it didn't feel good. And outside of like my awkward social interactions with everyone, just like, I don't know, the friend group I was in, like I said, they would never really invite me anywhere, and like they would take every opportunity they could to like dog on me, like just like make fun of me, poke fun of me. And like, it wasn't just me. I'm not saying they would do it to just me. Like, that's all the friend group was. They just, like, the lunch table would be who can get the most digs on who at once. Like, who can make fun of who for this, like, the most in one lunch table setting. And that's all it was. And I, of course, partook because, like, I wanted to feel involved. So they weren't just making fun of me. They would make fun of me as well, but, like, it would be me making fun of someone else, this other kid making fun of this dude making fun of me, and it would just go in a circle. So, like, I'm not saying, like, I'm some, like, oppressed being or whatever, but, like, yeah, that's basically all it was. But, like, over time, like, I came to notice, like, this friend group, like, I'm getting, because obviously friends, like, you're supposed to, like, bust each other's balls or, like,
What?
make fun of each other or, like, dig at each other. That's part of being friends, but, like, that seemed like all it was for me. Like, they wouldn't ever invite me anywhere. Like, I wouldn't ever get invited to, like, any of the parties. I wouldn't ever get invited to, like, go do something. like, just like go to a movie or like go on vacation or go somewhere. Another thing that this person would do, like he would purposely play into the fact that like he knew I didn't have any like real friends. He knew I didn't have anyone that like ever wanted to hang out with me or do anything with me. So when he got voted onto prom court, one of the themes for like Spirit Week or whatever was outfit swap, where you're supposed to swap outfits with like a girlfriend or like a buddy or like a friend who's a girl or like a sibling or something. Anyway, so he knows that I don't have, no girls want to talk to me because like, look at me, I'm not exactly pretty to look at, but he knows that like I don't really have any like friends or whatever. So I walk into class and he's like, Korg, why didn't you do the outfit swap? Or like, why didn't you do the outfit swap, man? Like, who you had so many people, and then like, all I could do was stare at him and be like, you know why? You know I don't have anybody. He's like, well, you could have asked anybody. No, I couldn't have. And then the freaking teacher plays into the joke like, yeah, man, like, what do you do? Why can't you do it? Because like, the teachers here are, they're about as like immature as like the students are. So I don't know, just a real jerk. And he'd play into the fact that I don't have any friends or that I was ugly, and yeah, it didn't really feel good. Yeah, it sort of wore down on me because like I remember this one girl described it to me saying I have school friends, not real friends, and that's really what it was. So it just led to me having like my weekends. My weekends were just me like either watching TV or playing video games. That was the whole weekend, and that's all I had. So like I would never, my weekends were not a movie, as everyone's Snapchat stories would say. My weekends were very, very lonely. But yeah, I don't know, all throughout my middle school, even into high school career, I felt very, very like out of place and very, very lonely. Like, I think one of the obvious examples is during my English class, my senior year, we had this project relating to Frankenstein, which we had read that year. And it was a project that was meant to be done with partners. It was designed with each of us having a partner in mind or a group. And everyone got into their groups, everyone got into their partners, and no one wanted to be in my group. So, and like, here's the crazy part. There were two groups of three. Meaning that they would rather like have an extra person in their group than like partner up with me. So, and I remember like all my so-called friends, quote unquote, one of them like partnered with another girl, another partnered with like this other group of three, and like they left me alone. And I remember I had to do basically 2 people's worth of work for the presentation we had to do because no one wanted to partner with me. And yeah, which felt amazing. And I remember on the day of my presentation, this one kid who partnered with his girlfriend, who they broke up like 2 months later, so that was really worth it. He asked me, he said, Corbin, who are you partnered with? Who's your partner? And I said, no one. And then he was like, ooh. And then he said under his breath to his girlfriend, that's awkward. But he didn't say it quiet enough because I heard him and responded, yeah, it is. So I did an entire presentation by myself for a project that was meant for 2 people. So, I mean, if that's not a clear sign that like I didn't have any friends, like I don't know what is. Another example that like proved that nobody like cared about me or like even noticed me in my grade or even in my friend group was this was actually one of the few good things to happen to me my senior year. Was the college I was going to, I was actually entered a race or like a writing competition for the chance for a full ride scholarship, and I actually did end up winning the full ride scholarship, which was pretty cool. And I posted about it on Instagram, obviously, and nobody really cared. I mean, I got like, most of the comments I got were like people from like my summer job, like my friends that I had from out of town. Like nobody really like cared. That's like, and you could say like, oh, at least like, some people commented or whatever. But here's the thing. A couple months later, or like a month later, this other kid got this full ride scholarship for like the military or whatever. And, you know, good for him, like, honestly. But then when that happened, he was one of the popular kids he was the kid who won Homecoming King. Everyone went like absolutely bananas. They went crazy. They were like peeing their pants. They were going like, "Oh my gosh, like he got a full ride." They were like posting on their stories about it like, "Oh, we're so proud of you. Oh, this is amazing." And I remember I was just sitting there like, I mean, I kind of did the exact same thing, but none of you posted on your stories about it, or none of you really went bananas over it. But everyone was like pooping their pants or when he got it, but like, I mean, no one really posted about it on their stories when I did it. So like we both this just proves that they didn't care about me because like I did the exact same thing that another kid did. The only difference was the kid was more popular, so everyone went more crazy about it. So, I mean, yeah, that felt incredible. So yeah, like I don't know. I will say this though. Over the course of my high school career, there have been a few select people who have been genuinely nice to me, who have been like nice to me. They weren't exactly my friends, I'd say, because like we wouldn't ever do anything, or like they wouldn't ever like go out of their way to talk to me. Well, they'd go out of their way to talk to me, but like they weren't ever like we wouldn't. They were school friends. I'll put it like that. They were true school friends, but not like friends. One kid who I played soccer with and ran track with, we'd always talk about like track. He'd give me rides to soccer and to track before I got my license and stuff. Like he was chill, and like I don't know, he knew how to act like a normal person compared to other people, but he was of course cued to the norms of the popular group, so he wouldn't exactly go out of his way to like break free from like the status quo or anything. The second was this kid who I really felt bad for, because he was in the popular group, but like total meat rider. Like I'm gonna say this, there were two head honchos of the popular group who were like inseparable. They were basically like a gay couple or whatever, and like they weren't actually gay, but like they both played basketball, they both played soccer, they both did this, and I was like, oh, there was so many people. Like me and this other kid would joke like, oh, like get a room or whatever, because like I don't know, they gave very big homo vibes, which like there's nothing wrong with that, but like anyway, it's just funny to like theorize about because they'd be so disgusted if they imagined like that. Anyway, this other kid who was nice to me, he would always meet ride them. He'd always try to interject himself in the conversation. He'd be the guy who would be like, so where's the function, or where's the party or whatever, or he'd always go out of his way to like try and like walk down the hall with them even though like they wouldn't pay attention to him at all. He'd try his best to like sit next to them even though like they wouldn't pay attention to him. Like he would give so much just to be like noticed or acknowledged by them, and like if he did, it was the best thing in the world. And like anytime I try to bring this up to him, I'd be like, bro, they do not care about you. Like, they do not care. He'd be like, bro, what are you talking about? He'd be like, bro, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not meat rating. My man, if you're watching this video, yes, you were. You were meat rating. And, oh man, to make it even worse, this kid got told by his crush, who he would deny as his crush. She straight up said, nah, he's like a brother to me in front of the whole class. And that's rough. But he still tried to play it off because he couldn't like blow his cover, so he like kept being friends with her because like, oh, we were only ever friends, like I never had a crush on her or anything. Cap, it's pretty obvious. And he ended up going to prom with her while she had a boyfriend, which, yeah, I mean I can't exactly talk because like, I went to homecoming with some girl who was like too embarrassed to even be around me. But yeah, anyway, there was that kid who was nice to me, and there was a kid who was a grade younger than me who I would run with at track, who, here's the thing, like, I don't think he knew that I wasn't really one of the popular kids. He just saw me hang around with popular kids and assumed, oh, you're one of the popular kids, because he was a popular kid in his grade. He had connections with the popular kids in my grade. So he didn't actually know, because I'll give you an example, because on my birthday, you know how people will post like on Insta their stories or post on Snapchat like happy birthday so-and-so or happy birthday man, live it up big. Nobody posted for me on their story about me for my birthday or whatever, because like I don't know, maybe they were too embarrassed by me or whatever. But like nobody, like they told me like, oh, happy birthday man, but that no one would post on their stories or whatever, because like they don't need that, you know, not much to post really. But the kid I ran with, he was the only one who posted on his story out of everybody. He was the only but one who posted on his story, like, happy birthday, man, like, live it up big. And I think that's because he didn't actually realize that, like, no, he's not actually, like, popular. He's not actually part of the group. Like, we just talked to him and stuff like that. So, yeah, he was nice to me, and I don't know, I'm trying to think if there were any others. The kid who sat across from me who said I should, like, smoke weed and, like, work out or whatever, he was chill. Like, he'd comment on me, like, you know, if I walk in, he'd be like, hey, I see you've been lifting or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, yeah. Like, he was chill. Like, I think he had some common sense about him. So, like, he would treat me pretty decent. He would treat a lot of people pretty decent, honestly. Sometimes. Depends. He was pretty weird. Like, he was one of those people who just, like, wouldn't show up, like, sometimes. And would just be, like, have 20 missing assignments. Be like, you know, it is what it is. And then somehow still get through. So, like, I mean, props to him, I guess. But, yeah, so that pretty much sums up that section of the video.
I'm going to the sports bar after work tonight. Who wants to eat some delicious chicken wings and get crazy?
Chicken wings? I love chicken wings.
Hey, who wants to share a croissant with this guy?
Croissants, I love croissants.
Oh, yeah, I sure do love giant sausages.
Giant sausages, no way. You know what I love to do? Is share a meal with the special people in my life. Fred, Barry, Gail, me and you.
And I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm repeating myself. Like, it's not easy to talk about because, like, I mean, I'd go, like, if you saw me, like, in school, you wouldn't have guessed that, like, I thought this way or whatever, but, like, I don't know. I just felt, like, I don't know, very alone. Like, no friends. Nobody cared about me. Like, if I don't know. I feel like I had no effect on the school whatsoever, or my grade, or even my friend group. Like, if I was sick for a day, like, nothing would be impacted. Whereas there would be these other kids where, like, they'd be sick for a day and they'd be like, yo, where's he at? Like, where is he? Is he okay or whatever? But, like, yeah. So I had very little significance in my school. So, yeah. That's pretty much how that went.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!
Squidward!
Another thing I would struggle with at different periods throughout my high school career was my physical appearance. Because in case you can't tell, I'm not exactly, you know, a 10 out of 10. In case you didn't notice. But I don't know. I think it started around my junior year, and it always happened around November. I don't know why. It always happened around November, where I would just get very, very irritated with being alone. Like, I would always wonder, like, why literally, because, like, my entire quote-unquote friend group, they were all these, like, you know, 10 out of 10s, like, handsome, beautiful guys who, like, you know, were, you know, benching 200 pounds or, like, you know, having these fresh white boy haircuts and all that. And, like, you know, they were what the girls would describe as fine or whatever. And I was not that. Like, in case you couldn't tell, like, I mean, I look like a lizard with, like, a mop on his head. So, like, I wasn't exactly pulling, as my friends would describe it. And I remember there'd be these instances where at lunch these people would be talking about, you know, yo, I'm talking to this one girl or whatever from so-and-so, or like, yo, this girl hit me up or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I remember sitting there being like, I kind of wish, you know, someone would, you know, hit me up or whatever, like, or at least be interested in me. But, like, I mean, you can probably guess based on my appearance, like, it's not very likely.
Maybe get a girlfriend.
Can you imagine that?
Not likely.
So, I don't know. I know I'm not, like, the ugliest guy in the world, because, like, there are obviously people who have had it worse. Like the guy who made the video, being ugly, my experience. Like, I don't know. Like, that was one of the videos I'd watch a lot, and like, I feel like I resonated with like his experiences a lot, because even back all the way in like middle school or whatever, or like even elementary school, like no girls really took any interest in me. One, because I was weird, which like that's entirely my fault. Like, I deserve that, but also because of like my appearance. So I started to take a lot more concern in my appearance, being like, yo, like, I don't want to like be lonely my whole life or whatever. So junior year, around the winter, I started getting more serious about like working out and like eating better and stuff like that. Like, I adjusted like what I would put in my lunch. I adjusted like how much I would eat in a day, like, and that would be made difficult by track and stuff like that, but I'd always be able to get back on track and all that. I started taking more consideration of my skin and like my skincare and stuff like that, because in case you didn't notice, like, I have really bad acne. There's actually a lot wrong with me. Like, I get why like no one would want to be with me. Like, my forehead, you could build like an entire condo on my forehead. You probably can't tell because like the lights are dimmed, but like I have really bad acne. If you go to school with me, you know, like, my face is like pockmarked and like pimple marked and stuff like that. It's gross. It's disgusting. My hair is like raggedy and like dry, I guess. My eyebrows look like they were burnt off. Like, I look like Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, like when he was crawling up like a thing or whatever after Obi-Wan cut his legs off. My nose is weirdly shaped, and like my side profile, just look at my side profile. Like, it's not pretty. Like, yeah, and it's even worse under different lighting. Like, I tried to use the lighting to my favor, but like even still, like looking in the camera, it's not great. But anyway, that's besides the point. I wasted enough time on that. So I would have these periods where I would get very concerned like about my appearance and stuff like that, and be like, yo, like, I'm tired of being lonely. Like, I would become angry. Like, I didn't get why, like, literally, it seemed like literally everyone else in my grade could like have someone. Like, this one dude in my grade, like, I think he blew through like 10 girls like in his high school career, just like one after another, and he tossed them away just like that. Boom, boom, boom. So like, props to him, I guess. Like, I'm not trying to call him a bad guy or whatever. Like, I was just trying to like, you know, get some action. But like, I was confused as to why. Like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I would get very, very irritated and very, very sad and very lonely, because like, not only did I like not have any friends that would hang out with me, like, I didn't have like a girlfriend or someone to like spend time with me or like actually care about me or like say they love me. So I tried working out, I tried doing skincare, and I'd keep it up. I was consistent like all throughout like summer, all the way up until this year. And I remember I straight up asked a girl one time. She wasn't from my school. It was on Snap. It was from a completely different school. I straight up asked her if she thought I was ugly, and she said, I mean, kinda. So, I mean, there you have it. Like, I'm ugly. I can't do anything about it. So I remember feeling very defeated. But like, I didn't give up hope yet. I played, I think you fellas know the quick ad game, where you go through and do a roulette of girls in your quick ad, and you see how many you can get. And anytime you get to the part where they say, what do you look like, or what do you look like, I'd send a picture. I'll put those up on the screen now. It was these pictures that I would send. Every single time they'd see my pictures, it'd always be the gray X. So like, you don't need any more confirmation. Like, I'm ugly. And I think I got to a point where like I was just so defeated, like, you know, there's really nothing I can do. Like, unless, I think the plan at this point is like, save up, get rich, and maybe get like plastic surgery or something, where like they can maybe fix my eyebrows or like fix my face so like it doesn't look so blocky, because like I do not look good in the state I'm in right now. So yeah, I remember at my lunch table I was talking about stuff like this, like how lonely I was, and they would never take it seriously. They'd just be like, Like, I think they would just straight up call me ugly, this one kid. I'll get into a lot about that kid later. He was a total goofball. He would just, like, his entire shtick was just, like, to be as annoying as possible. And people loved it. Like, he was popular. Like, he'd be at parties, you know, kissing girls or whatever. But, like, his entire shtick was to be as annoying as possible. Yeah, he was not a good person. Anyway, he would just straight up call me, like, ugly sometimes. Or say, like, bro, if she's out of my league, like, she's 10 times out of your league. Which, I mean, I'm not going to argue with him. Like, yeah, like, she probably is. Like, yeah. Anyway, I remember this other kid at my table who was chill. Like, he was one of the few people at the table who was, like, I don't know, I feel like he had some common sense about him. But I remember I was saying all this, and he thought he hit me with this absolute banger. He thought he was really, he really thought he was Master Oogway with this wise phrase. His advice to me was, work out and smoke weed. And then he got up, stood up, walked away like a champ, and threw his trash in the trash can. And by golly, I was so enlightened. Just so wise. He really thought that was it. Like, bro really thought that was it. Like, I already do work out, but, like, I'm not... Probably pass on the weed thing, if I did say so myself. But thank you for your offer. Maybe if I go my entire college career without any hoes, I'll take you up on that. I'll look into it a little more. But yeah, that's stupid. Like, come on, bro. So, yeah... Very, very low self-esteem, not big on my appearance, very, very lonely, very angry that, like, because, like, I remember, and, like, a lot of people would say, like, oh, it's just because you're black and Warren, like, you know, this town is, like, it's just because you're different than what people are used to. No, that has nothing to do with it. My race has nothing to do with it. Do you want to know why? Because in the third marking period of the year, we got this new kid who was a grade younger than us, who was black, and everyone loved him. All the girls were like, oh, did you see so-and-so? Like, oh, I was talking the other day, he's so cute. Like, oh, he's so nice. Everyone loved him. And he ended up getting a girlfriend within, like, I don't know, 1 to 2 to 3 weeks of just arriving here. And I was just like, dang. Like, if that's confirmation, like, that it has nothing to do with my race, that's it right there. So, the race card is BS. So, it has nothing to do with that. And I remember what made me mad was he had this huge, you know, ordeal where he proposed to his girlfriend he just got. He asked her to prom or whatever, like with this huge sign, and then he broke up with her the next day. Like, it was nothing. Like, oh, you know, it's not a big deal. When I was like, bro, like, I'd kill for that, bro. Like, I would kill to have someone, like, actually, like, want me, bro. Like, and he just threw it away like it was nothing. But, like, hey, props to him. That's his decision. It's just like, man... It sucks, like, watching all these people just, like, get all this attention and be like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll pass on her, maybe not, like, when I'm just trying to find scraps over here. Yeah, but, you know, that's just how it is being in lower league. And I think I've gotten to a point where I've sort of accepted my appearance. Like, I'm probably, even until I get rich or hit the lottery or something and get plastic surgery, like, I'm just not gonna look good. Like, I'm just... Like, I mean, look at me. I look like the poo that your neighbor's dog took on your lawn that you now have to scrape up with, like, a paper bag or something. Like, and there's nothing I can do about that right now. Like, no amount of working out is gonna, like, fix my face. Like, no amount of skincare. Clearly the skincare isn't working. Like, I've gone through, like, 5 different, like, soaps and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's not it. And touching my face probably doesn't help, but, like, I don't care at this point. So yeah, that's the whole deal with my appearance. My appearance was a big part of, like, why my high school experience was so terrible. And just watching everybody, like, because, like, I just really wanted love in my life. That's all I wanted. Like, that's, like, and so many people had it offered to them, and, like, I received nothing. Like, so many people were able to go through high school with, like, these experiences and, like, these blessings, and, like, I received none of them. Like, I remember this other time, another example is when one of my friends who ran track would like text me and be like, yo, this one girl is trying to set me up with this other girl. She said like, you should take so-and-so to prom or whatever. And like, he'd act like it was such a bad thing or whatever. And I'd just be like, oh man, like what I wouldn't give to have anyone just like wanting to go to prom with me. Like not out of pity, out of not like genuinely want to go to prom with me. Like not out of like pity and whatnot. Like no one for real wants me. Like I might actually just be alone the rest of my life. And so yeah, I didn't feel pretty good. And like I do probably blame myself for most of it. I'm not trying to blame the society or the system or whatever, because like I mean, if I was in their shoes, if I was a good looking person, like 10 out of 10 alpha male, like what would I do? Like if I were in the girl's position, I would not go for me. Like so I can't really blame them. Like it's not their fault. Like it's just genetics, and like that's pretty much it. So as an outside viewer who doesn't go to my crappy high school, you're probably wondering like, how do you even like at this point, if I have such a negative attitude, like what do I do for fun? Like what keeps me going? And let me tell you, every year from sophomore year to this year, my senior year, there's been like my savior has been fiction, like TV, video games, like movies. And that sounds nerdy and stuff like that, like, oh, get a life, go touch grass. But like, I mean, I didn't really have anything else. Like I played sports, like I worked out, like I did all the stuff like that should check a box for like social interaction and getting you connections, but like it clearly didn't. So like I did all did all the stuff for like the cookie cutter popular kid, but like I didn't get any of it, like the benefits of doing those things. So but yeah, so I definitely didn't need to touch grass. I touched enough grass. I'm actually allergic to grass, which was another thing I got made fun of. So if you're one of the people from my soccer team watching this, you probably know that one. You probably caught that Easter egg. You probably caught that reference. Anyway, so yeah, all I had was really like pieces of fiction each year. Anyway, I had a piece, like different pieces of fiction each like year of high school that would like get me through the year, that would be like that. It felt like they were there for me when like no one else was. I remember sophomore year in the winter, it was the season 2 of The Mandalorian. And I remember, man, like for one of the few times I felt happy that year, like actually happy, was watching like Boba Fett return in The Mandalorian, because he's been my favorite character since like I was a little kid and I first watched The Empire Strikes Back. I even got a little Boba Fett AirPod case, so you know, big fan. And for the second half of the year, I remember I was on a big Marvel binge. I was on a big MCU binge. That was before the MCU went downhill. Actually, it was right at the start. Like, I remember Falcon and the Winter Soldier was coming out around that time. Anyway, then my junior year, what got me through was I started watching Naruto, which, oh yeah, anime, weeb, cringe. It's actually popular right now. Like, right now, while I'm recording this, like, everyone in my school is, like, starting to watch Naruto, and suddenly it's cool. Last year it wasn't. So I started watching Naruto, and man, that show carried hard throughout my entire junior year. Like, that felt like the one thing, like, that was consistent throughout my life. Like, it felt like I was watching Naruto, like, grow up alongside me. And, like, I remember two of the best things the show ever gave me was this opening 4.
Everybody tells you from time to time to never give up, like a phrase from a movie. They tell you to stand up for yourself, as if it was always that easy.
And the 16th ending from the show, because I remember I would listen to the 16th ending a lot when like in the springtime of my junior year, I'd listen to the 16th ending a lot whenever I was sad or lonely. Because I remember I got to that part where the ending was, like around like prom time and stuff like that. So, you know, everyone's asking, you know, their dates. Everybody's got like their couples and they're all happy, and like I'm by myself. So I'd listen to that, like, you know, in my room, like with the lights turned off and be like quiet, or like I'd listen to it on the way home from a track meet, like on the bus with my head against the window. And I remember these were the lyrics that really stuck out to me, that really resonated with me and made it my favorite song. But yeah, so Naruto, big part of my junior year, and like that show, like I'm not even joking, that show saved me, because like, I mean, the group in Naruto were more of a friend group to me, like, than my actual friend group was, and like they didn't even know I existed. So yeah. And then my senior year, the piece of fiction that carried me hard was Elden Ring. I remember Elden Ring was just that thing where it felt like, all right, I'm coming home this weekend. I got something to do. I'm grinding, like, gonna get through that next boss, gonna get through that next milestone. And it was like a journey that like I would work my way through, like, over different periods of my life as I overcame my own journey throughout my high school period. And I don't know, it gave me something to do. It took my mind off of, like, you know, life, like, because I was so focused on, like, discovering this new area, or this boss, and it was just another piece of fiction that was, like, there for me, and that was, like, just helped me kind of push through my senior year. So, yeah, Elden Ring. So those were the big ones. Mainly the two big ones were Naruto and Elden Ring. Those were the two ones that really helped me out there. So yeah, but it just goes to show, like, I had hit like this complete wall of loneliness where like all I had were like movies, video games, and TV shows. And they were like complete lifesavers too. Like that was my, it felt like I was taking part in something. It felt like I belonged somewhere when I was watching Naruto go on an adventure, or I was adventuring myself through Elden Ring. It felt like I was partaking in something, which I missed out on so much in high school. Yeah.
No friends in the industry. I had to draw the line between my brothers and my enemies. A fact. Let us start a beat, don't wanna keep it rap. Yeah, you hit us up and now we owe you something back.
So this part of the video is where I get really ranty and where I probably get more annoying than I've already been, which I've been pretty annoying this whole video, like my voice and whatnot, and I sound like I've been complaining, but this is where I really start, like, complaining, I guess, because, like, this is what really makes me mad. So one of the worst things about my high school, in my opinion, is, like, I hate saying this because, like, it sounds like I'm some, like, Discord mod who, like, watched Joker or whatever and is now complaining about society, but, like, the hierarchy of, like, school, like, you know how it is. There's popular kids and there's not popular kids. And my school was so cliquey. Like, I remember, I have other friends who aren't from my school. They're, like, from my summer job. I remember one of my friends from my summer job was talking about how at his school, he was like, yeah, my school's pretty chill. Like, I mean, there are popular kids, but, like, everyone's, like, on good terms with each other and whatnot. Like, I mean, popular kids will interact with non-popular kids and talk to them. And I'm just like, I have no idea what that's like. Because the school is so cliquey. Like, you will get judged if you walk the wrong way. You will get judged if you, well, this sounds cliche, but if you don't wear the right thing, or, like, if you don't, like, talk a certain way, or if you like, I know it sounds like I'm making it up. It sounds like something straight out of Disney XD or whatever, but like, I'm not even joking. Like, I was so nervous to even drop something in the hallway because I was worried that I would get judged or have someone go, whoop, or have someone like point at me or like whisper or like, it is so bad. And the way bullying is carried out mostly in my school is you don't have people coming up and like grabbing people and shoving them in lockers. Well, you do, but that's not really bullying. That's just people like scrapping and being idiots. The way like the worst way of bullying happens is like, it goes like this. It's like what happened to me in 6th grade. The popular kids will pick out a kid. They'll pretend to be nice to them, like, you know, be like, oh, hey, what's up? Or hey, whatever. Like, either there'll be a girl pretending to be interested in them, or they'll like pretend to be like buddy with them or whatever. And I'm going to name off several examples right now. Most of them coming from my English class. Example number 1. There were these 2 douchebags in my English class who right before they would have this class called strength and weight training or whatever. And I'm pretty sure it was just a bunch of kids who needed gym credits or whatever. But there were those 2 in there who were like, we go gym, Ziz, like whatever, however you do the freaking pose or whatever, type of dudes. So, you know, really, really charming guys. So their whole shtick was there was this special needs boy who was a little bit socially awkward, but he was outgoing, he was nice, he was lovable, but they would make him their little personal pet, their little personal experiment, and like hype him up to like, you know, try and bench this amount, or like be, yo, what are you gonna do today, or like do this or whatever, and then like pretend to be his butt or whatever, and like give him a fist bump in the hallway. But then they'd come to the class and just start like talking shit on him, like, bro, he's such an idiot, like just like completely clowning on him. And yeah, and like literally out loud too. And the teacher didn't really care, because she was one of those teachers who, like, you know, she gets how it works. Like, I mean, it's not like we're seniors, it's our last year. Like, if those kids want to say those things, they can. So, I mean, whatever. But yeah, it was so annoying. It'd be right in front of me, and like I wanted to say something, but like obviously I'm not going to. Like, and none of you would have either. Like, you're not gonna come in and like be like, I'll be the hero, or like, you leave him alone, because like, no, what, you want to get made fun of next and have you get called special needs next? No. So they bully the kids in their strength and weight training class by, you know, hyping them up and pretending to be best buddies and stuff like that, and just like laughing at them behind their back. So, you know, a real class act. Second version was, there was this girl who she wasn't special needs, she was like super smart. She was actually a grade below us, technically, but she was graduating the same year as us, and she was in our English class. And I remember this one dude, this other douchebag, a different one, he would always come over and talk to her, and he would pretend to like flirt with her and stuff like that, but like she wasn't popular, she wasn't like, they weren't friends with her. So he'd pretend to flirt with her and stuff like that and be like, hey, what are you doing today or whatever? Like, nothing, I'm just coming over to visit you. And she'd be getting all flustered, like, oh, no, like stuff like that. But like, then he'd turn around and look at like his, like, you know, group of friends or whatever, and like smirk or like laugh or something. And he'd do that, like we had an end of the day study hall period. So he'd do it then too, because they were both in that too. So he'd like pretend to like be flirty or nice with her, but then turn around and like laugh at her and behind her back. And then the girls, they got in on it too, actually. They got pretty into it as well. They would pretend to be like, you know, girl group friends with her or whatever. Like, oh, wow, like, what are you up to today, so-and-so or whatever. Like, and then like, but they had no intention of being friends with her. They just wanted to like laugh at her behind her back. Because if they did have intentions to be friends with her, like, they would act like a friend, like maybe invite her somewhere, or like, you know, just talk to her like a normal person and not like a pet. But that's besides the point. Like, one of the most annoying examples of it was one of my kids in my friend group, who I've probably mentioned a bunch throughout the video. My junior year, he was talking to this like sophomore girl who was in our science class, and they were talking and stuff like that, and like, you know, it was just a fling or whatever, but like she'd always just like make fun of me for no reason. She'd treat me like I'm special needs. Like, she'd do the thing, like I mentioned before, where the quiet girls would like pretend to be interested in like, where the popular girls, I'm sorry, would try to pretend to be interested in the quiet kid. And she'd like always take pictures of me and like, you know, make fun of me and like, say, oh, why is he so sexy or why is he so hot? When the joke was that I'm not. The joke was that I'm ugly. But it's like where you see like a girl who's not attractive or a girl who is like not good looking, and like the guys would be like, bro, she's so fine, to make fun of her. That's what she would do to me. And I don't know why, because like I never talked to her. I left her alone. Like I didn't do anything. But she'd always try to like single me out, and she'd use that guy that she was talking with to do it. And like I don't know why, she'd always just make fun of me. Like I didn't get it. Like she'd always single me out and be like, oh, why is he so hot? Or like, why is he so fine? Or like, the joke is that I'm ugly. And like, I didn't really need reminded of that. So thanks. Third example, and this is the biggest of them all. In that end of the period study hall I mentioned, there's this kid, a freshman, who I'll just say this, he's not prompt to all social cues. I'll just say that. He's sheltered. He's very sheltered, I'll say that. But he's a good kid. He just makes very, very bad decisions based on what he's told. Like, he's very gullible. So, this one kid who is a total douchebag, kid I was talking about earlier, the kid who would, like, call me ugly, who was, like, total goofball at our lunch table, he would be his wingman or whatever to help him get girls. And what this meant was he and this other kid, because it really got worse around the time because they were all on the tennis team. What he would do was he would take him under his wing and help him use his riz or whatever. And what this consisted of was having him use terrible pickup lines, and have him go up to these popular girls, these popular senior girls. Mind you, he's a freshman, and use them. But since the kid stuttered a lot, he would mess up, and then they'd be recording on their phone the whole time and laugh and be like, no, dude, you gotta do it. Like, she wants you, bro. And for the first half of the year, they were trying to help him. This girl he actually had a crush on, they were trying to help him get with her. And I have to say this, I'm not exempt from this because I sort of partook in it too a little bit. So I'm not saying like I'm some saint or whatever, because like I'm not some benevolent like bishop or whatever, because like I took part in it too, because the kid, he wanted me to write a love letter or whatever, and I like to write, so I wrote the love letter or whatever, and hey, they all loved it or whatever. But I wrote it for him, and he signed his name. They pretended it was his. And so that was my contribution. That was all I did, though. Like, I mean, I tried to steer clear of that whole situation. But the other kids, they took it too far. They tried to have the girls that he liked come into the room and have him try to, like, talk to them or whatever, or, like, use pickup lines. And they'd be all while recording, of course, and watching him fail and turn, like, bright red. And they'd just be, like, having the time of their lives watching him embarrass himself. The second half of the year, their play was this one senior girl who won Homecoming King. They tried to trick him into thinking that she had a crush on him and wanted to go to prom with him. Spoiler alert, she did not. So what they would do is they would have him use his riz on her and be like, oh, look, so-and-so, you're making her blush. Look at that. She wants you, bro. And then he got so confident that shit. He was like, yeah, she wants me. He'd be like dapping them up. Like, yeah. And the worst part is, like, I couldn't say anything to him because, like, he thought they were his friends. Like, because, like, he looked up to them and he thought they were his friends. And they treated him horribly and laughed at him and, like, humiliated him. And it's not cool. And I couldn't call them out on it because they denied. They'd be like, that's not bullying. Like, it's just funny. It's like, I guess bro was straight up honest about it. So, I mean, props for that, I guess. And I think the most prevalent example of this is the talent show that we hosted. Now, the talent show was just an event for the student body to point and laugh at these people who wanted to share their talents. Because most of them were people who wanted to pursue a goal or pursue something with their lives other than going and getting shit-faced at a party and smoking weed and, like, making out with, like, 15-year-old girls. So they weren't popular, obviously, based on those things, because they had actual goals in their life. But they wanted to perform and share their talents with the student body. So not all of them were great at it. I'm just going to say that, like, I'm not going to hold back. But it was very entertaining for the audience because they do the whole, like, you know, like, they'd fake get hype for it. Like, oh, yeah. Like, this kid would be like, there was this one poor kid, like, this one poor, like, dude who was a sophomore who, like, wanted to sing a song or whatever. And everyone always made fun of him behind his back, like, all throughout lunch. They'd always make fun of him and stuff like that. So he wanted to share this. And so everyone goes crazy when he comes out on stage because, like, they're all, like, fake hyping him up because they're making fun of him. And then when he starts singing, it's not great singing. I'll just say it. They start pulling out their phones and recording him while laughing. And they start, like, screaming things, like, while he's trying to sing, like, we love you, so-and-so, or that. It's just, I was sick to my stomach the whole time. And it was just despicable. And then, of course, the old, like, you know, the whole flashlight thing when, like, when someone's singing or whatever. It was just despicable. And that's all it was. They would just, like, laugh at all these talents or whatever. And it was just, I don't know. It was not fun to watch. And again, I'm not exempt. I'm a person of my surroundings. Like, I mean, you have a desire to fit in. I was trying not to laugh as well at some points, but I at least tried to keep it mundane. I didn't try to make a spectacle out of myself. There was this one kid. I was more embarrassed for this one kid in my row because after every event that was obviously not great, he'd try to stand up and, like, you know, clap, and I'd be like, yeah, let's go, and try to get the whole student body to stand up with him. And no one would stand up. And he'd just be like, okay. And then he'd sit back down. So very well deserved. I don't feel bad for him. But, yeah. So, but it was just a real shit show. So that was a talent show. So yeah, the whole premise of my school is that there are these cliques. And if you're not in a clique, you're getting made fun of. Like, you are below us, basically. And it gets carried out in a multitude of ways, like, you know, popular girls, like, talking behind your back, you know, getting pointed at, like, being treated like an outcast. And I think after homecoming last year, my junior year, is when I started to stop caring about all that stuff. I had a realization where I was just like, what the hell am I doing? Like, clearly these people don't care about me. I don't have to keep living in denial and thinking, like, they're actually, like, my friends. Because, like I said, I wasn't getting invited anywhere. I wasn't getting, like, nobody would go out of their way to talk to me. I would have to initiate a conversation. Like, so, like, it was pointless. And I remember there was a, like, period during lunch where I would just, like, sit by myself junior year. Like, I would just, like, sit alone, which, like, wasn't really a big thing because, like, we were all sectioned off because of there were still COVID guidelines in that time. But I would just sit by myself and just watch Naruto, like, on Crunchyroll at the time. So, like, I mean, I was happy, like, for that period. I was just kind of doing my own thing. But it doesn't mean it still didn't hurt when, like, this was the worst. Whenever people would do this, people would just be making plans, like, right in front of me. They'd be making plans that I obviously wasn't invited to. And, like, I don't blame them again. Like, you know, they're free to do whatever they want. Like, I wasn't going to insert myself into anything. Like, but, like, it still was a punch to the gut when someone would be like, yo, we doing this weekend, we going camping, like, we getting so-and-so and we going camping or whatever. Or, like, yo, like, there's a party this weekend or whatever. Yo, like, we're going to be driving down to Bradford. Or, like, they'd be talking about this vacation that they went on or whatever over the summer. And I'd just be sitting there, like... And then the one kid who sat right across from me, who gave me the advice to, like, work out and smoke weed, he'd have the audacity to, like, look at me and talk to me while he was talking about, like, the party they were at, as if I'd know, like, what they're talking about. Like, dude, I wasn't there. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, yeah. And I think the two moments where it hurt the most this past senior year was... I was sitting alone at this table with a kid who made fun of the freshman kid. Sorry that I'm bad at describing all this. Like, I'm describing, like, kid who did this to this kid. Anyway, I was sitting at a table in my baking class with this other kid, the kid who made fun of the kid in our end of the day study hall. I was sitting at a table alone with him. It's just us two. This other girl walks in with a thing of Timbits, and she knows who I am. Like, we've played soccer together. Like, she said hi to me in the hall before a couple of times in middle school. She was one of the people who actually treated me like I was special needs in middle school. So, like, she knew who I was, and she walked over. She held up the Timbits to other kid and said, "Hey, do you want a Timbit or whatever?" And then he's like, "Oh, thanks." And then she just talks to him a while and then just walks away and ignores me. I'm just sitting like there like, okay, cool. I mean, I exist too, I guess. And like right there, I was like, that is my entire high school career summed up into one scene. And then I remember like the worst was whenever we like our class would like take walks or whatever, like we'd go for a lap around the school or whatever, whenever it was nice out. And I remember everyone would get into their groups, everyone would get into their cliques, and nobody would really want to walk with me. So I'd just be walking by myself like, I'm just kind of here. And I remember one time I was walking and I heard the same girl and the same kid behind me talking about to this other kid, the kid who pretended to be friends with the one girl. See, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I described these horribly. Anyway, group of Timbit girl and kid who made fun of the kid in the end of the day study hall, talking to this other kid about, like, who was one of their friends. They're like, oh, we're all gonna go see the Mario movie or whatever. Oh, we're all gonna, like, it's gonna be so magical, it's gonna be so much fun. And at that time, I was really wanting to see the Mario movie, so, like, that was, like, a double punch to the gut, like, dang, like, I'd kind of like to go see the Mario movie. But, like, I mean, obviously you can't be that guy who inserts yourself and says, can I come? Or whatever. And then be like, oh, sorry, man, we were just kind of going to do our own thing. Or they do end up inviting you in, but, like, nobody wants you there. So, like, no one's talking to you or they're trying to, like, get rid of you or whatever. Which felt like that's what the case always was. People would always try to get rid of me or, like, you know, avoid me or whatnot. Unless they were going to, like, clown on me or whatever, which that's pretty much a given. And I think one of the worst parts about it was, like, the popular kids, like, they were such hypocrites. Like, they'd clown on these other people for doing these things, but when one of their own did it, like, they'd make all these excuses, they'd defend them, they'd let them get away with it. Like, here's an example. So, everyone knows the stereotypical creepy senior who goes after the freshman or whatever, right? It's pretty goofy. So, they'd make fun of these other seniors who would, like, you know, be with freshmen or like, oh, he was hitting up freshmen or whatever. But then there was this one kid at the beginning of the year who got caught in 4K. In 4K, he was one of the popular kids, with driving around with a freshman girl in his car. And nobody cared. Like, no one, they just all forgot about it. Like, they talked about it for like a week, and then everyone just went like, oh, you know, not a big deal. And then they went along with it. But, like, if one of the non-popular kids, or if I were to do something like that, they'd never let me hear the end of it. They'd just go on about it over and over again. Like, you tried to hit up a freshman or whatever. But, like, this other kid did it. But he was popular, so they didn't really care. They let him just get away with it. They were like, oh, okay, it's fine. And that's how it was for a lot of things. Like, it wasn't like they'd clown on other people for doing these things that are deemed ridiculous or deemed, like, goofy. But they wouldn't clown on their own, like, you know, group or whatever when they do the same thing. And it was just, it was very, I don't like hypocrites at all. And maybe this makes me a hypocrite because, like, for years I participated in, like, I tried to do what the popular kids did. I tried to, like, put others down. I tried to, like, fit in until I realized, like, this isn't getting me anywhere. Like, what's the point? Like, it's wrong. Like, they don't care about me. Like, they're not paying attention to me. So I'm doing all this and, like, for what? So maybe it makes me a hypocrite, whatever. But I don't know. Like, just the standards they set is basically, if you're not popular and you do this, it's wrong. But if you're in our group, like, you get a pass, you're good. Because I remember there was, at this party, this party after homecoming where, like, one of the other popular kids, he was a senior, by the way. He, like, made out with, like, a 15-year-old. And, like, anyone else does that, like, they're getting, like, shunned. Like, they're getting excommunicated. Like, their family's not talking to them. Their friends not talking to them. But, like, he did it, and everyone was getting hyped. Like, yeah, let's go. And I remember sitting there at the lunch table, like, but you guys clowned on these other people for like dating freshmen, but like he's out here making out with them, like, so that was a little weird, but yeah.
Charlie, I love helping kids. I love kids, Charlie. I love kids.
Pim, I would really not be screaming that at the top of your lungs.
This part is one of the more like hilarious parts and like ridiculous parts. It has to do with like the school itself and like the teachers. Like, I don't know what the school district was thinking with the teachers, because like I think like genuinely they straight up like drove down to Arkham Asylum and picked up inmates and said, hey, you want to work at our school district? And they'd be like, oh, for sure. Because like, wild. Because I remember there was a middle school teacher who got busted for like selling like heroin or like crack or whatever to like students, I forget. So he got busted. There were like how many cases of pedophiles like in our school from like teachers and stuff like that. Most of them didn't get busted or whatever, but like they're the stereotypical creepy like gym teachers who like hit on girls and whatnot, and like it is weird. Anyway, there was like, I don't know what they were thinking about with like the teacher hirings and whatnot, because I remember the big event of the year, my junior year, was there was this one teacher who got busted for, I think it was like, I don't know if it was like human trafficking or like, he done a ton of bad stuff, and he had several like cases pending against him while he was interviewing for like to come to our school, and they still hired him. And anyway, so he found out that like the police were after him or whatever because he had done stuff with a student. He had like been, you know, engaging in shady things, like really, really bad. So he found out the police were after him. He ended up offing himself, which was pretty, yeah. And so we were all sad for like the day because we didn't know anything about him at the time. We were all sad. And then stuff started to get out and we were like, oh, maybe this guy isn't exactly Mr. Clean Pristine. So that was wild. Then there was another case that exact same year where this teacher like groomed this other girl, and they both ended up, you know, doing the deed. And then the other girl came out about it and like, you know, revealed what had been going on. And then the other teacher, bro, she fled to New York, bro. Like once she figured out they were on her, she got out of there. So that was another amazing case. Then this past year, there was this controversy where this other teacher, let me just say this, he was younger, he was like in his like early 20s or whatever as a teacher, so he's closer to our age range, so you know he was trying to be like the cool and like, you know, the cool teacher or whatever that's like chill and stuff like that, because he wanted to like, you know, be liked by us because he's still like young and he still cares about that. But so there was this controversy where he was gone for like 2 weeks, and there were rumors about this shady stuff like going on where he was like taking pictures of girls or like whatnot, and all, it was crazy. But even if he didn't, like the dude gave me creepy vibes anyway, because like the way he talked and interacted like with us, he acted like he was a student instead of a teacher, so he was weird. What else? Even the teachers that didn't get in trouble for anything, like there were a lot of male teachers that were just like weird, like in the way they talked to girls. Like I remember there was this one freshman science teacher who would always just like come up to these girls on my track team who he had as students, and he'd just like talk to them and like engage with them and like be super close to them, like they were buddies or whatever. And it's just weird, like weird vibes. So I don't know what was going on with the teachers, and even outside of like pedophilia and stuff, like even doing their jobs, like they kind of blew cheeks at. Like there was this one like history teacher I had my senior year. She taught like government economics. Bro, she didn't know how to work any of the technology, first of all. Second of all, she'd barely teach anything. She'd just say, go into your books and find this, and 5 questions. And it'd be the same thing every day. We'd go through, we'd have to find the stuff ourselves. We'd have to answer 5 questions. instead of like actually teaching us and engaging and like making it interesting. And then she did this one time, and then she sprung a test on us the next day, like not a quiz, a test. She was like, oh yeah, by the way, test tomorrow. And everyone did terrible on it. And she was like, oh man, that's my bad. Maybe I should have, gone over the stuff with you. Yeah, you probably should have. Like, I mean, you probably should have taught us the stuff before you gave us a test. I don't know. The teachers just very low quality. And that makes sense because, like, our school is super desperate for teachers and stuff like that, like our school district. So, like, they'd be willing to take anybody. If there's, like, some old dude underneath, like, an overpass, like, snorting, like, coke out of, like, a crumpled up leaf, like, they'd take him too. Like, they'd take anybody at this point. Like, they'd hire R. Kelly if you wanted to, like, come work. Like, that's how desperate it was. And, yeah, so the teachers, most of them stunk. There were a couple good ones. There were a few good ones. Like, my health teacher from 9th grade, she was, like, super nice person. My baking teacher was a nice person. But, like, just, the teachers were awful. Like, just hired straight up imbeciles, hired pedophiles, like, hired, like, sex offenders, like, just full-on criminals. So, like, I don't know what they got going on with the teacher hiring system, but, like, they gotta maybe work out a few of the kinks there.
And I'm stressed out all the time. I have mental breakdowns like twice a month. Nobody checks on me because they assume I'm doing fine. I've lost a lot of friends, and my anxiety has gotten so bad, I feel like the only way I can get rid of it is if I kill myself.
Another thing our school sucked at was, like, mental health and whatnot. Like, they didn't care about it at all. And, like, by the time they tried to prioritize mental health and whatnot, it was too late. There had already been several incidents with mental health, which I won't get into. But it was just, like, it was just not a priority to them at all. And, like, it was very evident in, like, the way the teachers acted, the way, like, and, like, going to that school would wear down on anyone's mental health. Like, the way people treat each other, like, the way, like, the teachers are, like, it was terrible. But, like, the school mental health, like, facilitation, it sucked. Like, it was awful. But I just wanted to mention that too, because, like, that's given for any school. Like, any school, like, they don't really care about your mental health. They just want you to do good on a test so they get their, like, paycheck raise or whatever. So, like, I mean, that's not exactly exclusive to my school. That's just every school. But, like, yeah, I just wanted to mention that as well. So, yeah, basically, my high school experience has not been great. Like, I came to a point this past year where, like, I hated the people in the school, even people that didn't do anything. Like, I just despised, like, going there and being around them. And it was just not healthy at all, because, like, I'm running track around the end of the year. Like, I'm getting tired from that. A lot of schoolwork's piling up. I'm getting tired from that. I'm lonely. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have friends. No one's inviting me anywhere. I'm sad because of that. I'm tired. I'm sad. I'm overloaded with work. I have low self-esteem. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I want to throw up. Like, just not good mental state, really. Yeah. Now, like I said, I am partially to blame for how my entire high school career went, because it was obvious what I should have done. I should have just left the friend group, gone to some of the non-popular kids, and been friends with them, because they were nice people. They would have gladly, accepted me, hung out with me. Like, I had the same interests as them, like Marvel, like Star Wars, all that. But I never did, and I should have. So that's mostly my fault. And I never did because I was so comfortable with where I was, because, like, that was all I had known, because I had known these people since, like, elementary school. So I didn't want to, like, abandon them and switch to something new, because, I don't know, it was different, and it was outside of my comfort zone. Even though in the long run, staying with them, being in their friend group, caused more pain and, like, caused more issues and was worse for me than if I had just said, okay, screw this, and just left the friend group because I thought that all the way from middle school, all the way to high school, I thought that things would change up until like halfway through my junior year. I thought things would change. I thought like, okay, they'll start inviting me soon. Maybe if I do this, maybe if I act like more of a jerk, maybe if I, say these things, maybe if I like don't talk at all, maybe they'll like me. But they never did. Like they never like really liked me. Like they'd talk to me, like they'd make fun of me, but like they never really liked me. And like I remember being so frustrated and so confused because like I was hitting all the check marks for what I should have done to be a popular kid. Like I went to their sporting events and they still left me alone. I participated in their Spirit Week things and they still left me alone. I went to homecoming, I went to prom. I didn't go to prom. I went to homecoming freshman and junior year. They still left me alone. I sat with them. I would change my values. I'd try to agree with them on like whatever they said. They still left me alone. So I didn't know what it took. I didn't know what I could do to like satisfy them or please them. And that ultimately, like, by the time senior year rolled around, like, I was so irritated with being left alone that I was like, okay, there's no point. Like, they're not going to like me anyway. So I sort of turned into a bit of a dick. Like, I don't know, in class and stuff, like, with them. Like, I mean, anytime they try to say something to me, I'd give, like, a stupid, like, smart aleck reply or, like, something. Or I'd, like, talk back to them, and then they'd get annoyed with me. And then, like, that obviously wasn't helping, but at that point, I didn't care, like, if I was being a dick to them. Because, like, even if I was nice to them or, like, even if I was, like, agreed with whatever they said, like, they still wouldn't invite me anywhere or be nice to me. So, like, I figured, why just, like, go down, like, being nice to them and, like, meat riding them, like, if they're gonna be a dick to me, like, they should be able to take it too, like, so that definitely didn't help with my popularity points, but at that point it didn't matter, like, none of them were ever gonna like me, none of them were ever gonna want to hang out with me, so at that point it really didn't matter. And even if I tried the approach where, like, all right, just forget about them, like, stay away from them, like, leave them alone, like, it was too late by that point. Like, I can't just, like, separate myself from them, because since I've known them from elementary school, and since I tried to, like, ride their meat so much in middle school and the first half of high school, it was too late. Like, they were already accustomed to, like, me sort of being in their group and them, like, crapping on me all the time. So even if I could just put my head down and, like, not pay attention to them, like, they're in every corner of the school, I can't avoid them. That was my mentality, like, all right, just ignore them, just try to get through, just try to live your life. But I can't, because they still, like, they're used to me coming back to them and, like, me, like, being part of their quote-unquote group. So they're still gonna, like, seek me out just to, like, poke fun at me and make fun of me. And anytime I would go quiet or, like, go, like, weeks without talking to them, or weeks to, like, try to show, like, hey, just, like, leave me alone or whatever, they wouldn't take the approach where they'd be like, what's wrong? Or, like, they wouldn't take the approach where it's like, are you okay? They'd just be like, what's eating at your skin? They'd, like, poke at me. They'd, like, make fun of me. They're like, what are you being so quiet for? Or they would be like, why are you mad at me, bro? Or, like, they would never take it seriously, which, like, I don't know. That just shows, like, how much they valued me, which was not a lot. So I couldn't just, like, ignore them. I couldn't just keep my head down and not look up, because I tried, and they still followed me around, and they still, like, they're in every corner of the school. You can't avoid them. They're everywhere. I'd like to clarify this also, because you're probably thinking, oh, just because you had a bad high school experience, that doesn't mean your high school was bad. And yeah, that's fair. That's a fair, sentiment to say or whatever, because just because something was bad for me doesn't mean it was bad for everyone else. But just the way my high school was, it sucks the creativity and uniqueness out of you, because, like, everyone just acts the same. Everyone, like, talks the same. Like, they use the same slang. They use the same lingo. Like, they do the same things. Like, if someone, like, I'll give you an example. If one person downloads, like, an app, like, if one person downloads Duolingo, you got 5 other people downloading Duolingo just to be like that one popular person who did it. So they have an in to get in there. Like, or if one person starts, like, playing this game, everyone's gonna be like, oh, I gotta play this game now. Like, there's no sense of individuality or personality, and if there is, you get made fun of for it. If you dress the way you want to dress, you get made fun of for it. If you don't, like, here's an example, like, the homecoming court, bro, I can't show a picture because I don't want to like dox these people, but like the girls' side of the homecoming court, they all looked exactly the same. Like they were all the exact same person. Girl with pale skin and blonde hair, except for maybe one girl who had brown hair, and she ended up winning, but they were all the exact same person. Girl with pale skin and blonde hair and the exact same high-pitched voice, wearing the exact same clothes. They're all the exact same person. And the homecoming court was just made up of like douches too. Like, I mean, I remember during the pep assembly, there was this one dude, they were playing musical chairs. And you know those TikTok videos where like the dude will like drag the chair away from the girl and like basically hit her over the head with it? Yeah, like that happened at my school. Like the one dude like went absolutely hog wild. He got a little too crazy. He was butt chugging some, you know, Miller Lights. He was feeling himself, and during the game of musical chairs, the girl was still hanging onto the chair, and he was basically dragging her across half the gym. Crowd's going crazy, of course. They're going absolutely wild. They're going insano style. He's dragging her across the thing. He like flings her off the chair, props the chair back up, sets it down, starts hyping the crowd up. Everyone's going crazy. Like they're peeing their pants. They're like going crazy. They're like, oh my gosh, they're like bowing down in worship. And it's just, it's so goofy. Like it's so goofy. I don't get it. I don't know why people can't just like act like normal people. Like, it's crazy because the normal for my school, the popular normal is to act like a dick. Like, and I don't get it. Like, I don't know why, like, being a dick and like making fun of special needs kids and like carrying yourself around like you're so high and mighty and like just trying to put other people down, and like I don't get why that's cool. And maybe I sound like some sort of main protagonist in like some kids film or whatever, where it's like we gotta stand up for other people, or like how do you think that makes them feel? I don't want to sound like that, but like I don't know, I don't get it. Like this feels wrong to me. I don't know. And like there's no like uplifting message I can give, like you gotta change your ways, or you gotta start fixing this so like you don't make the same mistakes we make. Because like no, like you're not gonna do that. You're not. The people who are going to be seniors next year and the people who are going to be juniors next year and so on, like, you're not going to just all of a sudden stop being, like, rude to people. You're not just going to stop, like, acting the way you've acted for your entire life just because some, like, ugly dude in, like, a YouTube video that you know from school told you to. Like, you're not going to stop, like, because that's what you're comfortable with. That's what you like to do. That's what makes you popular. You like just being a jerk and being rude and acting out and carrying on. Like, that's what ultimately, you know, scores you like social points. So there's no uplifting message. I don't know like what I can say. Like, as long as like they're like as long as they're like popular kids, there's like people are just gonna have a terrible like high school experience. Not everyone will, I guess. Like, I mean, if you follow like what like the kids I described in this video do, like if you do that, you'll probably have a great high school experience. Like you'll have tons of friends, you'll have tons of like girlfriends, they'll be all over you, like the teachers will love you. Like, I mean, if you do all that stuff, I guess like you'll have a great high school experience. But like if you just sort of mind your business, if you just like, I don't know, don't really put yourself out there and like try to make a big show out of yourself, like you won't have a good high school experience. So, and I can't change the whole entire school's mind. There's nothing I can do. Like, that's just how high school's going to be. That's just how the cycle's going to be. Like, you know, there's going to be kids in power, and then there's going to be kids trying to just live their life not in power. They're just going to be getting made fun of behind their backs. They're just going to get trampled on. That's just how it's going to be. And there's really nothing I can say to fix that or whatever. Luckily, I don't have to see any of these people ever again afterwards. I'm probably posting this video before graduation, so I'll probably have to run into them at graduation, which will be awkward. But at that point, I don't really care. Like, that'll probably be my last interaction with like any of them. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Feel so alone.
He's not that special.
Like I'm the only person in the world that feels this way, and it doesn't even matter. It's not important. It's not important. I don't know, maybe because I'm not important. Screaming out, doing everything in my power to be heard. Yet even silence is louder than my screams. What else can I do to be heard but to tear down my world, to break apart my life? Die. God, I just want somebody to listen and to not be angry that I'm not content, because I'm not. You know, I'm not happy. I feel like I'm stuck in a world where no one wants me. In a world where I'm so completely different, I can never fit in or be understood. I can scream as loud as I want to, but the screams will always fade because no one really knows how to listen.
He's not like normal like us. No, he's not that special. Wait, did he work with us?
Gail doesn't remember me?
Well, when you say Harry, I go. When you say the other guy, I go.
I know that guy, but I know like zippy zap about him.
We just talked earlier.
I mean, all he does is say yes to everything everybody else is doing.
You know, he's just sort of a little bit of a blank slate, I guess.
We all have something that makes us something, and Emmett is
There you go.